This is a quick guide on how to drive an automatic car. The first thing you need to do is switch it on. Now, most automatics will only start when they're in park or neutral. If they're in reverse, drive, or anything else such as sport, they won't start. On some automatics, you'll need to press the brake pedal, which is this pedal here, to start the car. On automatics, you have a gas pedal, which is your right pedal. The middle pedal is your brake, and there's normally somewhere to rest your clutch foot, which you don't have a clutch now, so it's just a foot on the left, your footrest. There's two stages to starting your car. The first stage is the ignition, and the second stage is your engine. To turn the ignition on, turn the key the first click until lights light up on the dashboard, these little symbols. Now your ignition's on, your electrics will work, such as your fan, your stereo, your lights, and your electric windows. The next step is to turn the engine on. Now, some automatics require you to press the brake to turn the engine on, but not all do. So if you press the brake and then turn the key all the way, and then your engine fires into life, as you can see by this tachometer here, the tach is showing you that the engine is spinning. Now it's time to talk about the gear selector. You have some letters and sometimes some numbers down the side. P is for park. That means your transmission is locked and the car shouldn't move anywhere, even with the handbrake off. R is for reverse. Reverse is reverse. N is for neutral, which means that the engine is no longer connected to the wheels. It's not connected to the wheels through the transmission. So therefore, if you wanted to push the car, say if you'd broken down, you could put it in neutral and you'd be able to push the car along without too much resistance. D is for drive. That's your normal driving mode. That's where the car will change gear automatically for you. And S is for sport. That will keep the gears lower to try and make for a sportier ride. To move the gear selector, you have to put your foot on the brake and then press this button in, and then you can move it to the one you desire. If, however, you want to change between drive, reverse, or park, you must make sure the car is stationary. This car also has a setting where I can push it over to the left, in which case you get this plus and minus, so I can change up the gears or down the gears when I wish. Sometimes you have numbers. This car doesn't have numbers, so I've made my own. 1, 2, and 3, for example. Now, if you set it at number 1, that means the car won't go above gear 1. 2, you won't go above gear 2, and 3, you won't go above gear 3. That's used for hills. So if you're on a steep hill and you keep it, say, in gear 2, that will help you stay slow so you won't knacker your brakes. The lower your gear, the more help you'll have with slowing down. Very handy in Wales. This car also has the option to change gear on the steering wheel. So here, if I pull this paddle, it will go down a gear, but on the other side, if I pull this paddle, it will go up a gear. That's a little bit more convenient because they're near your hands and you don't have to keep going down here to change the gear. Before you get going, you also need to take the handbrake off. Now, some cars these days have electronic handbrakes, which is just basically a button that you can press to turn it off or pull it up to turn it on. At least most are down for off and up for on. I haven't used any the other way round lately, Volvo. Anyway, a lot of cars have the traditional ratchet style handbrake where you have to push the button in. But I can't get this button in very far to push it down because there's a safety system. To get it in, you have to actually lift it up to push it in, and then, let's put my foot on the brake so I don't roll, you can push it down. I'm using this hand simply because you won't be able to see what I'm doing with my other hand because it covers up the button. And to pull it back up again, you simply push the button in, lift it to its firm, let go of the button, and it will stay up. Now I'm going to show you how to drive an automatic up the road. So once the engine's started, the first thing you need to do is press the foot brake, hold down this little button on the selector and pull it into D for drive. Now take the handbrake off so that the brakes aren't on and you can move, and make sure you keep your foot on the foot brake until you want to go, because in automatics, when you come off the brake, the car does start. It starts moving quite slowly. It normally goes about 2 miles an hour, but it does move, and you don't want it to move unless you want to. I'll show you that now. So no one's coming. I'll just release the brake gently and the car starts to move on its own. And it goes up to about 2.5 miles an hour in this car, to be honest. Not much more than that. Some cars are a little bit different, but this is fairly typical. If I want to go slower than this, I'll use the brake to modulate my speed and keep myself even slower so I can park in very difficult situations. I come off the brake again a bit more and the car will speed up again. And if I want to stop, again, I'll use the brake to stop. So basically all the control now is being done on the brake until you want to go faster. But let's say I want to go faster now, I want to drive up the road. So all I do is, again, wait until no one's coming, just let this car go past. I'll come off the brake, starts moving, I'll add some gas and it will pick up some speed on its own. And it's just changed gear on its own. And it's changed another gear. And that's all you need to do is use the gas, the car changes gear for you. When you want to slow down, use the brake again, which I need to do now. So I'm going to pull up at the side of the road, come off the gas, there's a car behind me, so I'll indicate to say I'm stopping. I'm going to use the brake now to stop at the side of the road. When I say a car, I meant a dustbin truck. Once I have stopped, I'll keep my foot on the brake, pull the handbrake up, push the little button in on the gear selector and push it to P to park the cars, cancel the signal there, and you're done. That's it. Another great thing about automatics is you don't need to worry about hills. So at the moment I'm on a hill, it's quite a steep hill, and I'll show you that it's here. I'm going to put it into neutral, take the handbrake off, and it's rolling back down the hill. So you don't really need to worry about hills like you do in a manual where you have to use the gas and the clutch and the car will roll back when you're going uphill and it rolls forwards on its own when you're going downhill. In an automatic, you just drive like you normally do. You use the brake at very low speeds and then use the gas when you want to go faster. The car will never roll the wrong way. So if you're in drive, it will always go forwards when you come off the brake. And if you're in reverse, it will always go backwards when you come off the brake. For example, I'm uphill now, so it wants to roll back. I'm going to put it into drive with my foot on the brake, as explained earlier. Take the handbrake off, get it off properly. It's off now. And just make sure it's safe, no one's coming. I'm going to come off the brake, and the car is not rolling backwards, it's just rolled forward on its own. I'm completely off the brake pedal now. And if I want to go faster, I'll go faster with the gas. I'll come off the gas, the car slows down. And when I press the brake pedal, it will stop. But if I come off the brake pedal, it won't roll back. In fact, if I stay off the brake pedal and stay off all the pedals, it will just keep going forwards. Very handy. Now, there is a downside about automatics, and that is they're not always the most enjoyable and sporty to drive, and they're not quite as good in the snow as a good driver in a manual. But they do try to make it more sporty nowadays by giving you the option of changing gear yourself, which gets you more involved in the driving experience. So at the moment I'm doing about 30 miles an hour, just under 30 in fourth gear. Now if I want to change gear myself, quite often there's a little paddle on the steering wheel. I can pull that once, I'm now in third gear, I pull it again, I'm now in second gear, and now there's a lot more power to be had from the engine. I pull it again to go up a gear. Just gets you involved in the driving experience. On this car as well, I can move the gear selector to the left and I can push it forwards to go up a gear, and I can pull it backwards to go down a gear. But to be honest with you, you can't beat a manual for having fun. That's my opinion though. There's lots of different systems out there and lots of different systems and how they work. You really need to look at your owner's manual to find out how yours works, how you can change gear yourself, and if you can in your car. Although it's been pretty standard for 15 years to have that option of changing gear yourself. There are 4 types of automatic transmission: the torque converter, the dual clutch, the single clutch, and the CVT, which is an acronym for constant velocity transmission. Torque converters are very old, been around for decades, really proven and reliable, and very smooth. Very nice to drive if you want a comfortable, relaxing drive. But downside, not that efficient on fuel. Dual clutch system kind of replaced the torque converter in cars, to be honest with you, as the popular transmission to go for. Much more efficient, not quite as smooth as a torque converter though, but if you want to change gear yourself, you can change gear very quickly. I'm not a big fan of them because they're not very reliable at the moment still, and they can still be a little bit jerky when you're setting off or at low speeds. Single clutch systems, just avoid single clutch systems, to be honest with you. Really jerky, more efficient, but just awkward to drive. Reserved for either really cheap cars or very high performance cars because they can take a lot of power. They're cheap to build and they can take a lot of power, so that's why they're at both ends of the spectrum there. And then CVT, which is used in a lot of Japanese cars like Toyotas and Hondas. Great idea actually, really efficient, really super smooth, and they can get a lot out of a low powered engine. So you can have a car with like 80 horsepower and it actually feels quite quick up to 20-30 miles an hour because of the way they're designed. But they do drone. When you put your foot hard on the gas, you kind of get a and the car's getting faster, but you can just hear this constant drone, which isn't very pleasant. Avoid moving your gear selector between park, reverse and drive when you're moving, like I said earlier, because that puts an awful lot of strain on your automatic transmission and will lock the wheels sometimes, which is not good for your control. Also avoid using the brake and the gas at the same time, although on some cars you can do this. It's a feature called launch control where you press the brake, give it loads of gas, you come off the brake and the car flies forward, but that's specific for those cars. Look at your owner's manual. If you have it, it will be in there. If you're practicing without an instructor, make sure you have insurance. Get £20 off via the link in the description to Collingwood, who provides specialist learner insurance that allows you to practice in a friend or family member's car without risking their no claims bonus. If you want to insure your own car, click on the link to confused.com. I have found that they have the widest selection of cheap insurers for young drivers. Well, that's all for this one. Like if you like it, subscribe if you want to get my future videos, and I'll see you on the next one.